Lieutenant Piper de Leon arrived with the convoy under a burning Afghan sun. Her boots hit the dirt like whispers quiet. Small, forgettable. She was just another soldier in desert fatigues, except smaller, quieter, and carrying no visible weapon. Instead of a rifle, she held a leather-bound notebook, cradled like it meant more to her than any sidearm. As she walked through, the base heads turned. Laughter followed. Who brings a diary to a minefield? Is she the clerk or the chaplain? Bet she screams at dust. Piper didn't react. She moved as if none of them existed, walking in a straight line with soft, precise steps, as though every grain of sand mattered. Her face showed no emotion. Her eyes were calm, focused, and that only made them mock her more. Later, during the joint unit briefing, Colonel Hayes outlined the next sweep through the Durakat Valley, where 30-year-old mines still lurked like ghosts beneath the dust. The colonel listed squad's orders extraction points, then called her name. Explosives Unit Lead Latz Piper de Leon. The silence was heavy. Eyebrows raised, murmurs buzzed in the air. Piper stood up, calmly. Sir, I request manual confirmation on the Type P series. Your last logs show inconsistent blast patterns. I believe the detonation radius has shifted, possibly due to iron oxide swell. Hayes narrowed his eyes. You believe? She didn't blink. Yes, sir, it's not theoretical. The dust composition changed. One soldier in the back mumbled under his breath. She's just here to write poems about it. The colonel dismissed her concern. No drones, no advanced tech, just basic sweepers and a bad zone. Your team takes the ridge. Worst terrain. Best of luck, Lieutenant. She nodded once and sat back down alone in a room full of doubt. That night, while the other soldiers laughed, sharpened knives, or played cards, Piper sat alone in the corner of the barracks. She had no rifle to clean, no buddies to joke with, just a notebook in her lap and a pen scratching in the dark. Page after page she diagrammed bomb-designed Soviet-North Korean improvised variants. She marked pressure plate shifts, wind scatter erosion lines. She drew one page with a red circle, a faint dust ring, barely visible. Clay dust perimeter, she whispered. It's signaling. Outside, a pair of corporals watched her through the window. She draws mines like they're Pokemon cards. Man, she's going to get us all blown to hell. They walked off, snickering. She never looked up. At dawn, she approached the tech sergeant at the gear station. I need analog sniffers. Digital ones will fail in the ridge zone. Quartz frequency bounce will blind the sensors. He chuckled. You think chalk dust can jam military-grade lidar? Come on, Lieutenant. It already has, she replied. Twice. That's why I'm still here. He stared, confused. She walked off without waiting for permission. As the mission began, Piper handed her unit a packet of sketches. These are the detonation signatures we'll likely face. Watch the powder lines. If the dust folds inward, step back. That's a passive trigger zone. One of the soldiers shook his head. You're telling us dust can kill us, lady. We trained for this with drones. You're out here with crayons. Piper didn't argue. She just led the way. Her steps were surgical. She paused at slopes, knees bent, eyes scanning not for shapes, but for shadows in the dust. The men behind her were louder, more careless. But she never turned back. She never raised her voice. She just kept walking, one step at a time, toward the ridge, toward the mines, toward the proof they all refused to see. Because the powder line always tells the truth. The ridge rose like a spine of broken bones, jagged, dry, windless. Silence pressed against their helmets like weight. Piper stopped at the base, kneeled, ran her fingers through the dust. It looked undisturbed, but her hand paused over a faint ripple, like someone had breathed beneath the surface. She whispered, Trap cluster, 5 meters ahead. Don't step. Let me lead. But behind her, Sergeant Bowers, 6'2" and built like a tank, rolled his eyes. Lady, we're burning daylight. I've cleared 20 ridges. I think I know a rock from a bomb. You've never seen this kind, she replied. And you've never seen combat. He pushed past her heavy boots, stomping over what looked like ordinary dust. Piper's breath caught. Her eyes locked on his boot. The soil dipped. She screamed. Freeze. Too late. Click. A sharp metallic noise beneath the dirt. Bowers froze mid-step. Silence. Even the wind stopped. His voice broke the stillness. What the hell was that? Piper moved faster than anyone expected, sliding forward on her knees, pulling out a folded toolkit the size of a paperback. She brushed away the dirt at Type RN mine, one not seen in active use for 40 years, but she'd drawn it by hand 3 nights ago. Don't move! The pin is old but not rusted. If you shift your weight, it'll jump. He didn't speak, just stood there shaking. The others watched in stunned silence. This wasn't training. This was seconds away from detonation. Piper's hands moved like a machine. Careful, precise, measured. She unscrewed the pin guard, twisted the detonation cap counterclockwise, then paused. There was another sound. A faint ticking, not from the mine. Her eyes widened. Double stack. She scanned the ground beside him, brushed away more dust. A second mine piggybacked under the first. A Soviet technique meant to trigger rescue attempts. You move, we both die. Sweat dripped down Bauer's face. What do I do? Trust me. Her voice was low, steady. She reached into her notebook, pulled a thread of copper wire from the spine, something no one noticed, wrapped it gently through both pin valves, tied it. On my mark, you step back. Slowly. I pull. Ready. He nodded, barely breathing. 3, 2, 1. Bowers stepped back. Piper yanked the thread. Nothing. Then a soft click, followed by silence. The mine sat in the dirt. Dead. No explosion, no fire, just dust. Piper exhaled. Bowers collapsed to his knees. Back at base, the unit was silent. No one laughed, no one joked. Piper walked in carrying the deactivated mine like a trophy, set it gently on the table, then opened her notebook. This was on page 42. She laid it down. A perfect diagram of the trap, drawn by hand, labeled by soil type, dated 3 nights earlier. Colonel Hayes stared at the drawing, then at her. How did you know? She answered quietly. Because dust doesn't lie, and I listen when no one else does. He nodded, slowly. You're not just EOD, are you? She didn't respond, just turned and walked out of the tent. The men who mocked her followed her with their eyes. Some nodded, some looked ashamed. But no one laughed anymore. 2 days later, a call came in from High Command. A medical convoy had gone missing in the Northwest Canyon, last known location pinged near a known mine dump. No drones, no visuals, no time. 3 lives, possibly 4. Colonel Hayes turned to the only person who had mapped that canyon. Lieutenant DeLeon, you're up, she nodded. No questions, no hesitation. But this time she wasn't alone. Sergeant Bowers followed behind her in full gear. You saved my life, I owe you this. Piper just nodded, then handed him a hand-drawn sketch of the canyon. We don't go by GPS, we follow this. Is this coffee stain part of the map? That's not coffee, that's clay. Explosive clay. The wind left it on the last sweep. It's a boundary line. Bowers blinked, then smiled. Let's do it your way. They moved through the canyon fast and low, Piper leading by feel more than sight. The dust, the wind direction, the pattern of dry moss on a rock, everything spoke to her. They found the wrecked convoy an hour before nightfall. The medics were alive, trapped inside a burned-out vehicle surrounded by pressure mines, thin, hidden, almost impossible to detect. Bowers muttered, We can't drag them out, there's no way. Piper crouched down, eyes scanning the dust. There's one way. She pulled off her glove. Underneath was a burn scar that ran from her palm to her wrist. She reached into her collar and removed a tag, not from their unit, a Black Ops insignia triangular faded with 3 stars etched on the back. You're not regular EOD, are you? She looked at him. I was part of the CIA's field unit Project Ashline, manual bomb recovery under blackout conditions. We didn't use drones or suits, just instinct and silence. Bowers stared, stunned. That's a ghost program. Everyone said it was myth. We were never supposed to exist. She stepped onto the minefield barefoot, now knees bent, each breath measured. The others watched from behind cover. One wrong step, one trembling finger, and she'd be vapor. She moved like smoke, hand tracing the grooves in the dirt, foot settling only where the powder broke unevenly, her language, her unseen map. She reached the medics, told them not to move, then one by one walked them back, each step mirrored, each step memorized. When the last soldier crossed out of danger, the canyon fell silent. Even the wind stopped in awe. Back at base, Colonel Hayes met her at the gate. No salute this time. Just a simple question. Why hide all this? She looked out at the ridgeline. Because no one listens to ghosts, and I only speak when it matters. He nodded slowly, then stepped aside, letting her pass. Every soldier on base stood silently. Some lowered their heads, some straightened their backs, and one by one, they moved out of her way not because of her rank, but because of what she had become. A week later, before dawn, an emergency briefing lit up the war room. An Allied unit had gone dark, their last known location, a disarmed munitions depot deep in a collapsed canyon. A geological shift had exposed an old Russian UXO cache rigged with chemical triggers and pressure-stacked explosives. The route was too unstable for drones, too dangerous for tanks, too unpredictable for tech. It required a mind, not a machine. Colonel Hayes stood in front of the silent room. We don't have time. We need someone who can see what others can't. Someone who doesn't blink. No one said a word. Then Bowers stood up. We've already got her. All eyes turned. Piper walked into the room wearing a scuffed flak vest, a field pack, and her leather notebook. She didn't need rank, she had weight. They airdropped in at 0400. 8 soldiers, 1 mission: extract the lost team before the entire ravine collapsed, or worse, triggered a mass detonation. Piper led the unit into the canyon, like a surgeon entering a chest cavity. Follow my path, not the GPS. If I say stop, you stop. If I say crawl, you don't ask why. Nobody questioned her. Not anymore. The ground groaned under their boots. Jagged metal and rusted shells peeked through dirt. And then, the trap. A daisy chain of live shells stacked atop each other like dominoes, connected by a web of dusted thread so fine it couldn't be seen by eye. But Piper saw it. She crouched, traced it in the dirt, breathed. They've wired this whole segment to collapse on exit. They want rescuers to make it halfway out, then vanish. She opened her notebook again. This time every soldier leaned in. Every mark she made was studied. Her words became gospel. We need to collapse the rear end first, block the chain, then run against the fallback blast. Counterintuitive, but survivable. Bowers looked at the map. That's suicide. Only if you doubt your feet. They set charges behind them, ran the route exactly as she'd drawn. Each step, each pause timed to the second. The final explosion sent dust and light into the air like a funeral pyre, but they cleared it. They emerged on the other side, covered in dirt, gasping for breath. But alive, all of them. Back at the base, the entire unit stood in formation. Not because they were ordered to, but because they chose to. Colonel Hayes stepped forward. Lieutenant Piper de Leon is no longer under classified restriction. Her record is being unsealed. He handed her a ribbon, but she didn't reach for it. Instead, she handed him something. Her notebook. Everything we missed, every blind spot, every dust line, it's all there. He took it slowly. What do you want in return? She looked at the soldiers standing silently behind her men, who once laughed at her. Now they waited on her word. Nothing. I already got what I came for. She turned, walked away, and as she passed, every soldier raised their hand. Not to wave, not to joke, but to salute. Every single one. Because respect doesn't come from shouting, or badges, or medals. Sometimes, respect walks in quietly with dust on her boots, and truth in her hands.